up to the same old fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Hey everybody, hey, and welcome to another session of Tarka Said Again. And today we have with us in the studio Mr. DeQuan Jones. And he is a professional basketball player. He's going to share with you his story. And of course, we can't forget to tie it in to my book, Addictive Patterns. We're going to turn it over to him, but I will say he played for the University of Miami. All right, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for hopping on, taking the time out of your busy schedule. And if you can just elaborate on your journey as a professional basketball player.
It'll be hard to just condense.
Some highlights.
Right. I'm DeQuan Jones. I grew up in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Okay.
You know, I took the quintessential path to play professional basketball. I was ranked later on in life. I was what some would call a late bloomer, so to speak. But, I graduated a 5-star, thankfully, out of Wheeler High School in Marietta, Georgia, which we're known for producing cream of the crop basketball.
Yeah, I heard that. And you was putting up 15 to 16 points a game.
I was in the 20s, but,
Oh,
close.
okay, my bad. Sorry.
But I come from a loving home, mom, dad. I have a little brother, and I'm just a humble guy. I just play basketball. My hobbies include anything outdoors, fishing, hunting, anything firearm related. That's kind of my second passion. And I just so happen to play basketball.
Okay.
I have a wife, Allison Jones. We've been married for 11 years, been together for 17.
Nice. That's a blessing.
Yes, I have 2 children, Harper Jones, she's 6, my baby girl, and my son is Jackson Jones. He's 3 years old. So just a family man that likes to play basketball and be outside.
Wonderful. It is always good to hear when you have athletes that consider themselves to be a family man or a family guy, taking care of the home as well as taking care of whatever that's necessary to bring the bread into the household. So just in thinking about that with your journey, you started in the NBA here for us in Orlando with the Orlando Magic.
I went, like I said, a late bloomer. Went undrafted, got invited to Summer League, earned a spot in training camp, and from training camp, earned a permanent, spot on the roster. So, I just a product of my hard work, a product of ambition, just relentlessness. And, it's probably one of the bright spots, aside from my marriage and the birth of my kids, probably the bright spot of my life.
I like that because a lot of times, just as individual, no matter what it is, a lot of times when you say late bloomer, people automatically assume that is impossible, to make it happen. And just from me being in this position and doing different interviews with some of the top athletes, that's been their story. They were late bloomers, or they weren't American this player, or what you would consider number one on the team. But later on in life, things turned around for them. They still got the opportunity to make themselves known with their talents and their skill set.
Yes, man. And now that you mention it, I think I'm selling myself short a little bit because
Okay.
I was an All-American. You know what I mean? I was a
Oh,
But I think it hails in comparison though when I look at a lot of those guys that are were in my class that graduated with me. Like a lot of those guys didn't have long careers. Like I'm in year 15. Still playing at a
Nice.
high level. Like I just won a championship. I just won the league in the UAE last year, averaging 20 something. Like I'm still playing at a high level. And I think that's been the biggest thing. Like now I look back and I'm like, bro, I've played 15 years like professionally. And it
Hmm.
goes that age old saying that like it's not about how good you do, it's about how long you do good. And I just
Okay.
have been fortunate with the gift of longevity.
Right, right. That's what it sounds like. Can you tell us, because you mentioned being in the UAE, correct,
Mhm.
Lean?
Yes.
So can you tell us about like where you are at this time for training camp?
I'm currently in Cairo, Egypt. I'm playing in the Kuwaiti Basketball League in Kuwait this season. When you play overseas sometimes, and I guess not even overseas is applicable to life, like you look around and you like I can look out my hotel room right now and like see the pyramids of Giza. And it's almost surreal that this basketball has taken me so far around the world,
Yes,
gifted
yes.
me the relationships and the experiences that it has. So, I'm just blessed and I'm thankful.
And that's what I was going to ask too, because you say Egypt, like what were
Mhm.
some structural or some landmarks, and like you said, pyramid, because when you say Egypt, automatically what I know as far as Egypt is Moses and the children of Israel in the Bible, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you painting that picture and being able to look out your hotel window and see these pyramids, the things that we've read about only for me, because I've never visited this place.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's big.
Yeah. And it's so funny, even, my daughter, she's lived in three different countries. She's lived in Italy when she was a baby, Japan. I spent 4 years in Japan. And recently the UAE, and they'll have like show and tell at her school this year,
Hmm.
and she'll bring like monogram chopsticks, and she's like, "Oh yeah,
Wow.
like I was gifted these from my teacher when I lived in Japan." And it's like the kids are like blown away, and
Right,
she
right.
don't even believe her, and she's like, "No, Daddy, tell them like we lived in Japan."
Tell them.
It's just surreal, or they'll learn about something like a landmark. And I think my daughter has a picture on with the leaning Tower of Pisa, and like she can reference that, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like I've been there." So like again, it's just cool. It's cool to experience.
Yeah, and it broadens her as an individual to be able to
Mhm.
speak on those things. So, was there a defining moment when you knew that you could make the team or the league? Was there something that took place?
I think it was the opposite. I think it's like that John Legend song, like Gravity. I think my whole life it was like gravity was telling me the opposite. But
Okay.
always had this grand delusion. Like my mind was already made up from birth. The first time I seen Michael Jordan come fly with me, I knew that this was my destiny. This was my path.
You was
And
inspired.
I was inspired and I lived my life with that being the end goal, with that being the finish line. Like all of my decisions were based on how is this gonna push me towards my goal and my finish line. But I've always had this crazy delusion when I would go to summer camps, and of course, the coaches' jobs is to humble you, and they're like, "Oh, out of this camp of 100 people, statistics say only two of y'all are gonna make it to the NBA," and I'm looking around
Mm.
like, "Who gonna be the other one?"
Right, because I'm the first one, huh?
Like I believe that in my soul and in my being. So a lot of people credit it to manifestation or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
always believed it. I always believed it.
And that's a
So
good thing. It starts with you believing. No matter how many testimonies and stories I hear from the various athletes or just a successful person, whether it's a business owner or whatever the case is, that's one of the common denominators, them believing in themselves, having that
mhm.
mindset. Like that's the repetition. When we talk about addictive patterns and thriving in repetition, Those are some of the things because we're talking about that mindset. How do you mentally prepare for a game?
Now or before?
Oh, okay. If there's a difference, let's share it.
So before in my youth, I guess it's kind of the same, it's synonymous. So like I was chasing a feeling. Like I had
Okay.
to feel good before I played. So I would do something small like get a haircut or wear something new or I had to feel good or eat something
Mhm.
good. I had to do something to evoke like a good feeling, right? So like now though, wisdom has taught me that, and this is advice that I give the younger players, is that
Mhm.
your best basketball or your best life, and this is applicable to life, it has a recipe. So like your favorite dish, it has a recipe. It has 3 cups of this, 2 cups of that. When you don't focus on the recipe, it creates anxiety. When you don't have a routine, when everything is
Mhm.
sporadic, like the days are different. When you focus on the pattern, the routine, and you focus on that recipe, the results will be what it is. So that fear and that anxiety is no longer there because this is what you've always done. Now it's
Mhm.
just a matter of the work that you put in leading up to it. So I think that's the difference. I think it's important just to know and understand that like your best life has a recipe, and instead of thinking of the outcome, you think about the input. You think about how you can implement, your daily routine and your mindset.
I like that. The input and the recipe, those ingredients, the makeup before playing your game, which comes wisdom as you shared versus chasing the feeling. And speaking of that, because I heard you mention pattern also in my book and you knowing what it stands for when we talk about the positive and the negative, everyone has an addictive pattern or habit. How can you connect your career to what we know briefly about addictive patterns?
Man, just choosing. Everybody has a vice. Everybody, like you said, has a pattern. It's just a matter of choosing one that is conducive to what you're trying to do. Like for me, I'm like a workout fanatic. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to lift weights. If I don't lift weights, like it's cheaper than therapy to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
the quote, and it's probably a very toxic quote, but I always say like you just lift weights until you're not sad no more, or until you're not mad no more. So I think just choosing something addictive that is conducive to what you're trying to do, because being a health nut is advantageous in my in the work.
So, and speaking of that, give me a little bit more input or elaborate a little bit more and connect it to this addictive pattern. As we mentioned, you gave me some information as far as what took place with you in your younger years, because you did talk about wisdom, right? And how we do things a little bit different now. You get older and you become wiser. You found yourself in a situation, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, so my senior year, I was accused of taking money from a booster. I was suspended for, I guess, for the foreseeable future. It like didn't even have a deadline. I was suspended indefinitely. So I got
Okay.
an attorney and I fought. The NCAA, and I was, I guess, acquitted. Like no evidence was found against me, and I was reinstated. But I think, one, I sat out 10 games of my senior year, which,
Mm,
that leads into that's momentum lost going
yeah.
into a long season. And at the time I was still on the draft board, so like of course not playing in those games, assassination of character, that caused me to slide down in the draft and everything else. But I think that was a pivotal moment for me in my development as like a man and as a person, because I remember how it made me feel to be wrapped up in a national like scandal to the extent that
Yes.
it was. Like all eyes were on me. And this was like when social media and Twitter was like just getting started. And I'm walking around campus and people are looking at me. People have preconceived notions of who I am
Right.
as a person and all that other stuff. At 21 years old, in hindsight, like that's a lot to deal with. And I remember being in my room, like I didn't come out of my dorm for like 2 days. Just
Okay.
phone blowing up, people hitting, asking questions. But I had to make a decision of how I would react to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the decision that like I wouldn't succumb to my circumstances. And we talk about addictive patterns. It's easy at that age to justify bad habit or self-destructive behavior given the circumstances. Like, oh, well, people think I'm a bad person anyway. I might as well be that.
Right.
I might as
Feed
well
into it.
do what I want to do. I might as well feed into it. So
Right.
I think for me, that like springboarded me and laid the foundation for who I would be as a man, like moving forward. Like, no, the circumstances are what they are, but this is how I'm going to respond to them. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm not going to place the blame on anyone else. This is
Mm-hmm.
how I'm going to respond. And I think that from a spiritual aspect, like I was blessed for that. I was blessed the next year. I mean, hard work and dedication went into it as well. I feel like I reaped the benefits of that. I reaped the rewards for that having that
Right.
mindset.
And the fact that you recovered from it, you got out of, I like to say, that burial state. Because you could have very well been condemned about it. You could have responded in a negative manner. So many different things you could have done. But however, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you used it as motivation to continue on. And the fact that you took a moment to pause. You said you stayed in the room for 2 days. I'm sure to gather your thoughts, like you said, to see how you was gonna respond to it. Just a brief, even though we're talking about sports, but that's how my book was birthed. It was a contributor to that, something that was life altering for me. And I had to make the decision to get back out there, continue those same routines, but the question was going to be how you going to deal with it, because yes, you had people looking, yes, people had their questions, but how were you going to respond with it, how you were going to continue to move forward. And I can go on and on and on, but it's same principle but just a different manifestation. One last thing, throughout your career, have you used your platform for anything outside of basketball, like your
Yes, I mean
community?
from 2000. Yes, ma'am. From 2000 and I want to say 13 through 2017, 18, I had my
Mm-hmm.
own foundation, the Jet Jones Foundation, and we were federally recognized as a nonprofit organization. And we did community initiatives. We did community cleanups around my neighborhood that I grew up in and the neighboring parks and communities. We volunteered at the Atlanta Community Food Bank. We donated time and books to Books for Africa. We did back to school drives. We had multiple back to school drives where we raised thousands of pounds of school supplies for underprivileged kids and Title One schools. We had a scholarship fund where we provided books for first year students from Stone Mountain High School and
Okay.
neighboring high schools in the county.
Mm-hmm.
So giving back and philanthropy has always been my passion. And my foundation was a way to give back outside of basketball.
Right.
No knock against people and how they choose to give their time, but I also recognize that there needs to be an emphasis on supporting students from the educational aspect, not just the athletic. So that was kind of my
Right.
way of giving back to my community.
I like that. Promoting more student athletes versus just the athlete.
Yes, ma'am.
Give me your final words for the aspiring athlete.
A book I read, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen A. Covey. One, begin with the end in mind. So already operate like with the end of your career, the end of your tenure, wherever you are, whatever sports you play, keep in mind what you want your legacy to be. And I think by breaking that down, and Stephen A. Covey goes into it in his book, is that it forces you to stay in the moment and it forces you to handle adversity with a level of like optimism. So begin with the end in mind and understand that the body can't go where the mind has never been. So it goes back to what I was saying about that sense of delusion, even as a kid at a young age. Like my mind mentally, I was already accomplished my goals. But I mean, from the spiritual aspect, those are the two nuggets I can give you. Of course,
That's enough.
technically, like learn the fundamentals and be versatile and study the game and everything else. But I think those are we've already discussed those at length.
Yeah, I feel that's enough. You mentioning delusion, but I like revelation. I like that word better. And I get that the point you're making is that you saw where you wanted to be ahead of time, before your beginning or your start. But I like revelations and visions. We would like to thank you, Mr. Jones, for joining us today for another session of Tarka Said Again. And we definitely appreciate all of your words that you have shared with us in your life story. And for those that are listening and viewing, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and now iHeartRadio. You all have a good one.